This is the Tech Phantom, and welcome to episode 20 of the walkthrough. And this is going to be the third and last episode that is going to cover the downloadable content. And we are in the Chasm of the Abyss, and we are going to try to wrap up the story that the downloadable content opens up to us or makes available to us. And we have met all of the primary characters in the downloadable content. We have met Artorias, we have met Dusk and Elizabeth, and we have also met Kieran and Hawkeye Goth and Marvelous Chester, and there is only one more person that we have yet to meet or to encounter, but that we have heard about since the very beginning of the downloadable content, and that is Manus, the father of the Abyss. So that the things we know about Manus are that he is, at one point he was human. We also know that he now is a great beast, and that he is very, very powerful, and that he is the father of the Abyss, and the dark, or the Abyss that is tainting and it's destroying Oolacile, is emanating from him. So we have a lot of different descriptions from Manus. We don't know what he's going to look like. We don't know if the hand that came out in the portal and Darkroot Basin and grabbed us was a magic sorcery from Manus, or if it was actually him grabbing us, and we will find out about that. Alright, so we have been exploring the Chasm of the Abyss, and you saw me pick up a sorcery called Dark Bead. And I am going to try to get my sorceries correct last time. Again, in episode 18, I described Dark Fog as Dark Orb, so I apologize for that. And I try to clear that up in episode 19. So in episode 20, we have picked up Dark Bead. And that is another sorcery that is described as being weighty or having some kind of momentum, having mass behind it. It's not just a sorcery, but it actually has mass behind it. And again, there is a enigmatic sentence about how humanity is tied to mass or to weight. So humanity, the soul, is matter and has weight. So that's an interesting thing. So we've also dropped into an area where we see a smaller version of Elvina. Actually, it is Elvina, but we see a small version of Elvina, and she seems to be sort of playing tag with us. And she leads us to this secret area. And in the secret area, we see some kind of an animal that is guarded by some kind of ward and is surrounded by these sprites. And these sprites look like giant versions of the humanity that we have been picking up in the game, in the entire series of Dark Souls. But they're bigger. They're much, much bigger. There are smaller humanities, and then there are bigger humanities or bigger sprites. But they are much, much bigger than the humanities that we picked up from enemies, because those are, tiny sprites of humanity. These appear to be much bigger globs or conglomerations of humanity. And it's really interesting. This ward that protects a smaller version of Sif is incredibly powerful because the humanity sprites cannot get through it, and when we try to attack it, you heard that tuck sound. So that is a completely impenetrable, impregnable shield, or magical ward. And when we kill all the humanities, we finally are able to let Sif escape. Apparently he just wasn't strong enough, or he didn't feel confident enough that he could defeat the sprites by himself. And he drops the cleansing great shield, And this is going to tell us what happened. So Artorias, after he had succumbed to the abyss, and because he was deeply scarred by the abyss, meaning that his body had been scarred and his arm had been damaged, he no longer had use for the shield. He also wanted to protect his friend and comrade at arms, Sif. So in one last honorable act, he put an incantation on the shield, and he used it to protect Sif forever after, at least until we showed up. So that was a very noble and a very good act by Artorias. Even though he was tainted by the abyss, even though he was becoming a being of dark, he still had enough love and admiration for Sif that he completely drained his shield, which we know is an incredibly powerful shield, in order to protect Sif and to prevent Sif from succumbing to the abyss, just like Artorias had succumbed to the abyss. He didn't want that to happen to Sif. So again, that is a very honorable act, and obviously there was a very good relationship between Sif and between Artorias. The other interesting thing is that Alvina is here as well. So it is possible that Alvina, who in a video a long time ago I called another one of Artorias' pets, it is possible that Alvina also was friends or comrades with both Sif and Artorias and followed them into the abyss, but she had powerful enough magic that she could defend herself and she didn't have to fear the abyss for whatever reason. Alright, so I had to clear the area of humanity phantoms. That's what the sprites, humanity sprites, are officially known as. And I didn't want you guys to watch me fighting humanity phantoms over and over and over again. There's going to be plenty of that in this episode. But I did want to show you some obscure loot, and there are twin humanities back here in this location. And we haven't read the description of humanity yet in this episode, so let's take a look at it. And a humanity is a black sprite. Little is known about its true nature. If the soul is the source of life, then what distinction is left for humanity? Meaning, what makes a human human? Is it his soul or is it humanity? And are they both interchangeable? Are they both the same thing? Well, according to Dark Souls, there is a little bit of a difference. The humanity is actually a material item. It is an actual thing. It is these, it comes from these humanity sprites. But once it is in a human, once that humanity has somehow found a host or found a human, then it binds with him and turns that person into a human. And that kind of makes sense, because when you use humanity at a bonfire, you recover into a whole human, and you look more handsome and more wholesome. Whereas when you do not have humanity in you, you look terrible. You're shriveled up, and you're on your path to losing your humanity forever, losing what makes you a human forever. Because if you don't get some humanity into you soon, eventually you will hollow out and you will die and you will be gone. So the soul, the human soul, and humanity appear to be almost exactly the same thing. Alright, and I also wanted to show you this white titanite slab, which is a little bit tricky to get to. So that's some more of obscure or secret loot. Alright, so things are starting to make just a little bit more sense. We have just at least found out where humanity came from. And apparently humanity came from here. It came from the Chasm of the Abyss. And it was originally these larger phantoms. And over time, it broke up into smaller humanities, and we see that because we do see the phantoms come in different sizes. there are small phantoms, and there are also some smaller phantoms. And so humanity came from these phantoms. They splintered eventually into smaller bits of humanity, and they inhabit humans. They inhabit the folks in Lordran, at least the human beings in Lordran, because you need humanity in order to be a human. So we also know that Manus has been called our progenitor, or our, the first human, and that he had found a dark soul. So he had found the original pool of humanity. And we know that at some point Manus's humanity had gone wild. Alright, so we've cleared up this area, and we've picked up a very, very powerful pyromancy that is called Black Flame. And it was discovered by a pyromancer who wandered into Oolacile. And this is a flame that, again, that's similar to sorceries, to dark sorceries. It has mass, it has weight, so it's not just fire, but there is some matter within it. And that's the humanity, or that's a portion of the dark that when it hits you, or when it if you try to block against it with your shield, it can knock your shield away. And it's actually a very, very powerful pyromancy, and a lot of folks playing PvP have come up with some really interesting ways to use Black Flame in PvP duels. Alright, so we have cleared just about everything in this area, and now we are ready to finally confront Manus, the Father of the Abyss. And I think we have enough information now that we can try to figure out what it is that happened here. And let's go into the confrontation with Manus, and we will clear up this area just so that we don't have these humanities to worry about, or these humanity phantoms to worry about. And as you've seen, they drop humanity at a very high rate. So if you don't have enough humanity, or if you would like to farm humanity, this is the way to do it. You can equip the covetous gold serpent ring and kill these humanities. They're not too difficult if you have a weapon that can keep them at range. And you could fill up your humanity stack pretty quickly, which is something that you may want to do if you are, for example, using occult weapons, or for whatever reason, if you just want to have a higher amount of humanities in your inventory. Alright, so we are about to go through a fog gate, so that means that we must cast Power Within and Great Magic Weapon, because as you guys have been able to tell from this walkthrough, I really, really like Power Within, and I decided to give myself a little bit more damage output by also adding enough intelligence that I can also cast a Great Magic Weapon. And the combination has given us the ability to do quite a bit of damage, and that helps in the downloadable content, because as you have seen, the bosses are very strong, and if you cannot do a lot of damage, you are going to have to fight longer with the bosses, and that increases the possibility that you could miss a roll, or you unsuccessfully evade. And the longer a boss fight goes, the more likely it is that you're going to die, because the bosses have very, very strong attacks. So anyway, we went through the fog gate, and indeed we see this magnificent, it's the word that I want to use, this magnificent beast, the beast of the abyss, and is Manus, Father of the Abyss. And boy, he doesn't look human to me at all, yet everyone has told us that he was human at some point, and that he was asleep, or he was resting, or he had passed away and had his resting place was in the abyss, and he had been disturbed by the Oolacilians. They were incited by the serpent, one of the primordial serpents, into digging around, into looking into the abyss, and they finally hit on Manus's remains, or his resting place, and he woke up, and when he did that, his humanity went crazy, went wild. And when that happened, he lost complete control, and he became the father of the abyss. So, but he wasn't a willing father of the abyss. And what I mean by that is that, based on everything that we've heard so far, he did not purposely bring the abyss about. Instead, what happened is that when he was awakened by the people of Oolacile, his humanity went wild. And again, this is the same thing that we've seen in other areas of the game and with other NPCs. One character is unable to control some kind of immense power that they are exposed to, and that power completely transforms them, overwhelms them, and then it goes beyond them and it goes into the environment. And here we see a very, very strong character who has come upon the strongest power yet, and that's the power of the dark. That's the power of the abyss, and it has completely consumed him. It has turned him into this beast with the giant hand that can slap you down, and it's slowly seeping forward and is destroying everything in Oolacile, is tainting everything. And apparently the only people that can sort of withstand this power are humans, because because Manus, the father of the abyss, was human at some point, and his humanity has sort of gone wild and is oozing out. So he still holds a little bit of humanity in him, and that is shown as all of the sorceries that he uses. He does a lot of different sorceries. They're all very powerful. They're all dark sorceries, and we know that dark sorceries have mass, and that's because they use humanity. So humans are, I don't want to say immune to humanity, but humans are more compatible to humanity than other beings in Lordran, than the gods or the Oolacilians or the giants, for example. Alright, so we've beaten Manus, the father of the abyss, and we see that Dusk was trapped within him, and she has gone through a very trying time, because she is curled up, almost in the fetal position, and she doesn't remember anything. And we obtain the soul of Manus. It says that this extraordinary soul is a viscous, lukewarm lump of gentle humanity, and that Manus was indeed once clearly a human. He became the father of the abyss after his humanity went wild. And here's the important part. We knew all of that from previous description, but now we know why the humanity went wild. The humanity went wild because it was eternally seeking his precious pendant. And that is the pendant that we picked up in Anor Londo. And when we brought that pendant to the area where Dusk's summon sign was, we were teleported here by Manus. In the description of the broken pendant, it is that it is half of a stone pendant, that the vine appears to originate in Oolacile, and that it carries with it magic, very powerful magic. So apparently what Manus did, or what Manus's humanity did, is it sensed that we had half of the broken pendant close to us, and he kidnapped Dusk in order to lure us close to the portal from where he could bring us close to him, and from where he could get his hold on his hands on his precious broken pendant. So we have the one half of the broken pendant. That begs the question, where is the other half, or who has the other half? And the most logical explanation is that there is only one other person from our time that we have met in this time in Oolacile, and that person is Marvelous Chester. So it would make sense that Marvelous Chester has the second half of the broken pendant, and that he was also lured to this world. We don't know if he was lured by Manus using Dusk, or if he was lured through some other way, but he was lured into this world and he was teleported here, and I think he has the other half of the broken pendant, or he had something to do with it, because Manus sensed it within him and grabbed him and brought him here, just like Manus had brought us to this world. Alright, so Chester doesn't have anything more useful to say, and he has that stupid looking grin on him, so it's time to get rid of Chester. And we know his attack patterns because he attacked us as a Black Phantom, so he should be pretty similar. He should have very similar attacks, and indeed he does, including that that leg sweep that is not blockable, and that you can't attack once he's doing that kick. And we take a look at his armor to try to find out who he is. And we said that he was from Karim, and the armor seems to imply that he was a royal, or that he was a very rich person in Karim, because his items are very well made. So one possibility is that he is Sir Arstor of Karim. The problem is that we know that Sir Arstor of Karim died in Sen's Fortress. He came to Lordran, he tried to beat Sen's Fortress, and he didn't make it, and he died. So how is it possible that he is here? So I don't think that he is Sir Arstor. He is from Karim, but he is not Sir Arstor. But who knows? The problem is that with time travel, paradoxes are possible, and you can come up with a theory that would explain how Arstor has died in the future, but yet we find him here in the past. But to me, it doesn't. It's one too many paradoxes, and it doesn't make sense. And I don't think that Chester, Marvelous Chester, is the famed Sir Arstor of Karim that made all of those rings, the Poison Bite ring and the Curse Bite ring. All right, so we go back to Oolacile, and we talk to Elizabeth, because she was the one that put us in the path to rescue Dusk. And she says, "Hey, thanks for getting rid of that nasty primeval human." And primeval means the first human. So obviously Manus was indeed our progenitor, the progenitor of humanity, of humans. And she gives us her mushrooms. She also says that we are a great hero, that we have traveled through time and we have saved Dusk, but that nobody's going to know what we did. The only one that's going to know that is her, and we are just going to have to be happy with the fact that she will forever remember that it was us, it was this character that saved Dusk, that it was not somebody else. It was not Artorias, for example. So she also tells us that she's a mushroom, and don't get freaked out by that. Now, if you keep looking at her dialogue, at one point she will say, "I am one with the sorcerers of Oolacile." So I think what Elizabeth means is that there is a very tight magical bond between her and the sorcerers of Oolacile. As a matter of fact, if you are to kill Dusk after you freed her from Manus, and you try to come back and you talk to Elizabeth, Elizabeth will have disappeared. She's not there. The mushrooms are behind, but she is not there. So somehow the life of Elizabeth and the life of Dusk are joined together, and when Dusk dies, Elizabeth dies as well. Unfortunately, the game doesn't give us a lot more to go, so there's really you really can't put a good theory forth as to why this bond happens the way it does, because we just don't have enough information. And speaking of Dusk, she has a couple of items that are very puzzling. She has the Crown Dusk ring, which will double the number of sorcery castings in exchange for half your vitality. And she also has her headpiece, which will reduce your magical defenses but will increase your magical power. So for whatever reason, it appears that Dusk is willing to give up a large part of herself in exchange for being able to cast more and more powerful sorceries. And this really doesn't fit the mold of the noble, kind, and gentle creature that Dusk appears to be when we interact with her. So this is a little bit puzzling. So another thing to remember is that the description of Black Flame says that a pyromancer came into Oolacile and he created Dark Flame. But he was not crazy when he did so. When you read the description for the dark sorceries, Dark Orb, Dark Bead, and Dark Fog, those say that Oolacile sorcerers that were partially demented, right before they were fully demented, they went ahead and they created these dark sorceries. So again, the Abyss is attacking pyromancers, but it's not attacking sorcerers. Anyway, the important thing is that the Oolacile sorcerers, even when they were almost demented, they were still working on magic, and they were still trying to produce more and more powerful spells. So the sorcerers were willing to do this. Dusk is willing to give up her life and her magical defense in order to cast more powerful spells. So that can only mean that the culture in Oolacile was that they revere magic above everything else. And this may be the reason why they were able to be convinced by the primordial serpent to go into the Abyss. Because the Abyss is a very dangerous place. But if, for example, the primordial serpent told them that there was an incredibly powerful source of magic right underneath them in the Abyss, because the Elysians valued magic so much and wanted more and more powerful magic, they would disregard, and they allowed themselves to be convinced by the primordial serpent to go into the Abyss. And eventually they woke up Manus, and Manus's humanity went wild, and the Abyss started, the darkness started spreading for Manus, and they were tainted, and eventually Oolacile was destroyed. So this is the only explanation, because why else would Dusk have items that are something that you would think that Logan or Seath would have?
It is an honor.
Alright, so we have come to Dusk, and we are going to talk to her. And let me say first that we didn't save. We killed Sif in this playthrough, but if you would have saved Sif, he has some alternate, not dialogue, but an alternate cutscene. If you go in and fight him after the downloadable content, you will be treated to a cutscene where he recognizes you, but he still fights you because he doesn't want what happened to Artorias to happen to you. He wants to prevent you from accessing the darkness and the abyss, especially after he's recognized you. So Sif is noble to the end and wants to repay Artorias' noble gesture by preventing others that are trying to follow in his footsteps, and by preventing them from going into the darkness, into the taint. All right, so we've been talking to Dusk, so we are going to recap her dialogue here since we missed it. But she also recognizes us, and she's going to come to the realization that we were the ones that saved her as we start talking to her. So first she says, "This may strike thine ears as somewhat peculiar." And she tells us that her homeland a long time ago was attacked by the creature from the abyss, who we know was Manus, and that she would have perished were it not for the great knight Artorias. So she thinks that Artorias saved her, even though she also knows that she was half unconscious when this happened. And then she starts to recognize us a little bit more. We definitely remind her of what she remembers Artorias being, and we look just like what she pictures her savior as being. So she recognizes us right here eventually. Now she's not going to come out and say that because she's not 100% sure, but she does come to the realization that we did save her in the past. So there are 4 characters in the game that know the truth about, what happened in the past, and that Artorias succumbed to the abyss, and that it was our character that saved the world, and put Artorias out of his misery. So that is one person is Dusk, another character is Sif, another character is Alvina, because Alvina was also in the past, and finally the last person is us, because obviously we have the soul of Artorias, and sure enough, the soul says that the legend of Artorias was only half the story. That the story that he repelled the abyss is not completely true. He was actually defeated, but his honor was preserved by some unsung hero, and that is actually our character, and we are the true victor over the abyss. So what Elizabeth told us when we last talked to her, that she was the only one that would remember the truth. So she was right. So, and this is actually how the game explains why the downloadable content doesn't affect any events of the present. And that is because the story was so long ago in the past and everybody has forgotten it, except for Sif, Alvina, Dusk, and Elizabeth, and obviously ourselves. I guess that's 5 people. And we'll go back to Oolacile Sanctuary, and we will take a look at the mushrooms that Elizabeth gave us as a reward. And they are a very, very powerful item. They will refill your life over a certain period of time, but they will refill it very, very quickly. So this is indeed a very good reward for saving Dusk. Alright, so the only thing that we haven't talked about so far, guys, now that we've gone through the entire downloadable content, is Artorias and how he ended up in the abyss. So let me tell you my theory. I think what happened is that Gwyn decided to go and link the flames because Anor Londo was being swallowed by the dark. At the same time, he had also heard that the dark was approaching very, very quickly once Manus, was reborn or was reawakened in the abyss, in the chasm of the abyss. So that forced his hand, and he decided to give himself up and link the flames. When that happened, the gods, there was no supreme deity in Anor Londo, and the gods started leaving. At the same time, Seath is also becoming more and more powerful, and he's becoming a threat to the gods that are remaining. So the gods start leaving Anor Londo, and Artorias, who had changed allegiances, and his allegiances are now with the serpent, because that is how he is able to traverse the abyss. He really doesn't have anything of value left in Anor Londo. So he decides to go into the abyss once more, and maybe for noble reasons, or who knows why. It's difficult to say, but he goes into the abyss, and he is followed by Karen, who's probably his lover, and by Guff. So Guff chooses chooses Artorias over Ornstein and goes with Artorias into the abyss. And Ornstein is the captain of the guard, as his armor tells us, and so he's left behind to protect Anor Londo, and he needs some help, so he asks the Royal Executioner Small, who has, let's call it, a personality disorder, and who was not a true knight before. He asks him to help keep Anor Londo safe, to protect Anor Londo, because the other 3 knights have left his guard and they've gone into the abyss. So that's my theory, guys, and that is going to do it for the 3 videos in the downloadable content. I hope you've enjoyed them, and I'm looking forward to your comments and discussion. And you tell me where you think that I made mistakes and theories that better fit the events that we have seen so far. This is the Tech Phantom signing off.